Hey, this is job search expert and career coach Ariel, and I want to talk to you today about a recent study that Stanford did and some of the interesting results that came from it. So, as a coach, I hear a lot of concerns that job seekers have on a regular basis about AI and the impact that it potentially has on hiring and the way that it's being used in hiring. And it's a fair argument that while AI does make recruiting more efficient and scalable for employers, it can be cause for concern if it's not monitored or used correctly. So let's talk about this study and what the researchers found and what it means for you as a job seeker. So Stanford researchers in this study analyzed roughly 4 million job applications across 156 employers that were using a hiring platform called Pymetrics. Their goal was to understand how these tools impact hiring decisions and whether or not they could create unintended consequences. So one of the biggest concerns that was highlighted by this study's result is something that researchers call algorithmic monoculture. So in layman's terms, this happens when a lot of companies use the same hiring technology or assessment tools to evaluate candidates. And if one employer uses an assessment tool and decides that you're not a strong fit, that's one thing. But if dozens or even hundreds of other employers use that same system, that same evaluation could affect your chances of getting hired across multiple companies. This study found evidence that certain groups of applicants were disproportionately screened out by one widely used assessment tool called Pymetrics. Specifically, Black and Asian applicants faced higher rejection rates. This study does not suggest that AI hiring tools are in general discriminatory. In fact, it's important to note that the tool being assessed, Pymetrics, in the study is not an applicant tracking system or ATS that a lot of us talk about when we're talking about hiring discrimination. It's actually an assessment tool. In other words, it's assessing skills or knowledge as part of the hiring process. So, in other words, the tool that was assessed is not the one that's reading or scanning your resume. It's a type of tool that gives you quizzes and tasks to assess you as you're applying. And the results of this study do not prove that every company using AI is treating candidates unfairly or that all AI is unfair or discriminatory. It certainly doesn't mean also that one rejection automatically follows you everywhere you apply. However, what it does highlight to me is something that we have been predicting as coaches for quite a long time, and that is when many employers are relying on the same kinds of technology, any flaws or biases that start to be developed in the system as it's learning can potentially replay or be repeated at a much larger scale. Needless to say, a lot of job seekers that were already concerned about AI entering the picture have new reasons to feel concerned. Many people have started worrying that automated systems might be making decisions that are difficult for us to understand or challenge as the job seeker as well. So if an algorithm screens out a qualified candidate before a recruiter can even review their application, that candidate may never know why they were rejected. Now, HR wasn't telling us why we were rejected before, and it's probably not going to change just because we're using AI. But combine this with the fact that multiple employers are using similar tools, and those effects can become even scarier to think about. So, what should you as a job seeker take away from this, and what does this mean going forward for us in the industry? First, let's not assume that a rejection means you're unqualified. Hiring decisions are influenced by dozens of factors, including applicant tracking systems, screening and assessment tools, applicant volume, employer-specific criteria and culture fit, educational background, skills, knowledge, industry experience, and many more reasons that AI alone does not account for. Second, as long as your resume and your application clearly communicate your relevant skills, your experience, your accomplishments, your qualifications, it'll be easier for both the technology and the human recruiters to understand and to value your experience in your application. Third, continue building your professional network, both in person and on LinkedIn, because referrals and personal connections can help you to gain that visibility and those touch points in ways that online applications and applicant tracking systems simply can't give you. More than anything, I think that this study reminds us that technology isn't automatically neutral and that AI systems are created by people, they're trained on data, they evolve and they learn, and they're capable of producing outcomes that deserve careful examination and consideration as we continue to improve the way that we use these tools in the industry. As AI is leading the trend in more and more aspects of the hiring process, I think transparency, fairness, and accountability become increasingly important topics for both employers and job seekers and coaches to talk about. And studies like this can help to shine a light on where we need to improve things. If you found this video helpful, be sure to like, subscribe, and get more career and job search related content from me.